Oh hey, it's Wes. And do we really need another cell phone gimbal? Sure, why not? When last we spoke about gimbals, we were talking about the Smooth Q2, and it was definitely my new favorite cell phone gimbal. Compact and pretty slick. Up next, we have a new value price contender. It is the Hohem iSteady X. I actually mentioned Hohem in that video, in that they were more of an up-and-comer with much more competitive prices. Now with their latest launch, in a similarly sized offering, but a little more compact, we get to learn what that competitive pricing can do for us. So let's dig into it. We'll start out, number one, with the build quality. We're back to a tried and true, traditional, very plasticky design. This is quite lightweight, it weighs less than the Smooth Q2, but it's not slippery like a bar of soap like some previous plasticky gimbals were. So at least it feels pretty good in the hand, not as grippy as the Smooth Q2 though. And it has a nice locking design, so everything stays together and seals up when it's in your back pocket, assuming you're going to put this in your back pocket, because I know I do. And there's nothing wobbling around, and it's not super wide, so that's great. It's a thoughtful, considered design that they came up with. So all the joints lock in position, and then you pull them back out again to get your phone ready to snap in. And like most compact gimbals these days, it is super easy to get set up and running. But I don't want to talk about that too much. We're still talking about build quality. An interesting item of the build is the new offset arm design on here, so that you can use your wide angle lenses. We've got the iPhone 11 Pro here, has an ultra wide lens. If I use the camera in ultra wide mode though, there is no sign of the hinge on this. At some angles it can kind of pop in just for a second. So, see, it kind of got it in there. But overall, it is way easier to keep your ultra-wide hinge out of this. Altogether, the build quality, it's reasonably solid, not amazing, well thought out design, it's a 7 out of 10. Feature set. And this is really what sets a lot of these apart. They can do a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. So this guy here has an internal rechargeable battery through USB-C. You're only going to get a maximum of about 8 hours runtime. Your mileage may vary on that. On the Q2, you have a removable standard cell. Some people would like one over the other, so that's up to you to decide. Comes with the tiny tripod, which I greatly prefer. Even though it has a flat bottom and can be set down carefully, this makes life way easier. Talking about the rest of features, it comes with a little carry pouch. Don't usually use that because who needs to baby these things? Got a wrist strap and a USB-C cable in the box. There is a face tracking mode on this, as there is in most gimbals these days. There are some shortcomings and some strengths to this. One of the strengths being that this gimbal is reasonably responsive and that you don't have to tap the screen to select the face before you get going. So that makes it easy to film yourself. Some other gimbals in the past, you had to had two people to get it going, or I don't know, rig up some sort of a stick with a finger on the end of it to tap on your face to start tracking. Because it totally lacks the ability to tap to choose to track what subject, you have to rely on the camera to choose who it's going to track, which has its ups and downs. If there's only one person in the shot, sure, that's great. And also it should be noted that it's only going to be tracking a face, because again, you're not selecting an object. And so the face needs to be very clearly visible. If you say try to track someone who's running around in a yard like a child, it's not really going to work out. Oh no! This is more for focusing on yourself, getting something done easily. Now, one of the shortcomings you can see is that if I turn my head just a little bit, all of a sudden my face is gone and I'm no longer tracked. So you have to keep your face on there so that it can find you at all times. Hi there. Aww. So that's really about it. You can't choose your own subject. It works fine, but it's not going to work at a distance. Now the next part about talking about the features in this is really tricky, because the gimbal itself has certain features on it, but the app, the Hohem app, also has its own stuff going on. Let me show you what I mean. If I were to use the stock camera app on my phone, I would be able to use the record button to take videos and pictures. I would be able to do the quick rotation, which, I've got to be honest, I really like. Super easy. I can restabilize this or recalibrate it by double-clicking the power button, so that's great. And there's a zoom tab on the side. It doesn't work in the stock camera app. I can move this around, but that's about it. I can't change my modes. I can't really use the zoom button. There's not a lot going on. So I have to go into the Hohem app, where all of a sudden I have a zoom control, but this zoom doesn't integrate with the camera system. I have 3 lenses on here. All this does is digital zoom on the main camera. Kind of disappointing. And in here, it lets me switch through a bunch of different interesting modes, most of which play fun pop music while you're using them. Don't ask me why this is necessary. And in these modes, you have various rotating and time-lapsing. Face tracking, zooming, modes. Oh, let's get out of that. I don't know who uses those inception modes, but if you do, it's in there. When I first got my hands on this, the app was pretty buggy, but I was really pleased to see that they've released update after update after update, like way more than I ever expected them to. And now it's not too bad. There are way more features now than there were when this first became available. Let's turn off that sound. And then if we dig into the settings, there's actually a lot more going on here than I would expect. You can change the response style or shooting style. You can change how fast the pans with the joystick are. I turn them up real high because I'm chasing a kid around most of the time. And you can set your video resolutions. Unfortunately, there are no settings for your bit rates, which you would find in a third-party app, but if you use a third-party app, you lose a bunch of the features and the ability to switch between modes. So that's kind of annoying. And what annoys me most about this app day to day is that much of the time when I open it up, if the app itself is closed down, it goes back to default settings, which is 1080p, 30 FPS with no grid. I, however, like to shoot with the grid on in 1080p 60, sometimes 4K 60. But every time I have to go back in and make sure that it's switched to that. Another great feature in this is that you can switch the zoom mode to a focus mode. So you can actually manually do focus pulls with the slider. I quite like that. Am I going to use it? I don't know. Is it a feature that I really like? Yeah, it just happens to be. Additionally, if you want to update the firmware on this, you just get a prompt for it as soon as you start the app and connect it. It connects super easily and it says, hey, do you want to upgrade the firmware if there's one available? Unlike in the Q2, if you want to update the firmware in this, you have to plug this into a computer with a USB-C cable. I've tried multiple times on both Windows and Mac, and I've had no success whatsoever. I know that some people have had success, but they don't make it easy. Hohem, surprisingly, makes it very easy. The software started out buggy, came out real clean in the end. So overall, you have all the features. You have pretty much all the things. They're just not always accessible because you have this simplified design. Although it's all there, I have to give it an 8 out of 10. It's all there, but you gotta work to get it with their app. Interface, and I touched on this a lot already. And that's honestly where this really falls down. It's where most of these fall down because there's so many varying ways of doing this. And if you want to simplify what's on this, you got to put it in the app, and then you got to make sure the app works with a bunch of different things. Ugh, it's kind of a mess. For the most part, the interface works fine. But then there are times, let's say when I want to look at the photos, my phone is being held landscape and I have to look at the photos in a portrait mode. One saving grace here, I can press this button and immediately switch it to portrait mode. So it doesn't lose a whole point for that just for being easy to use. What annoyed me most about this device is that when you start this up for the first time, it asks you for your phone number and a password to start a Hohem account. I said no, I don't want to do that. I just want to use this. I don't want to be tied down. If you don't do that and register this device, it will beep at you all the time, constantly, as you can see in this video. It just doesn't stop beeping. So they twist your arm into giving them your phone number and starting an account. I don't like that. I think it's ridiculous, and dock a point on the interface for that. While I do expect lots more updates to come out for this, as I've said, they've come out a lot. Just with the general bugs and how you can't do everything on the handle itself, and you have to go through the app, and the app's not perfect yet, I can't give the interface any more than a 6 out of 10. Stabilization, that's what we're all here for, right? Well, I am pleased to say that this gets the job done. One concern that I often have, especially after trying the Smooth Q2, is that when you have the motors at an angle here, there needs to be some machine smarts going on to make sure that the simplest of motions don't get misconstrued. What do I mean by that? Well, let me show you. We'll fire this guy up. Now, if you look very closely, as I move this up and down, the phone has a little jump pivot right here that shakes the whole phone. Because these two motors aren't working in tandem the way that they should at that particular moment. This is fixable through a firmware update, but so far, as far as I know, they haven't done that. So at some angles, things get a little bit sketchy. It's not that simple programming these motors to do exactly what you need to do all the time. But they seem to have ironed out all those bugs. However, at the expense that we pay by having this offset hinge that is programmed very well is you have a very limited range of motion in this axis right here. As you can see, I only have to go down just a little bit and everything starts tipping. And the same for the upward motion, it can't bend very far in this direction. Whereas, when I'm using the Smooth Q2, I can go really far down and really far up. There's a lot more latitude in this direction. Look at that. Whereas this one, it gives out pretty fast. So there are ups and downs to having this very well offset hinge design. So overall, stabilization's good, it's reliable, it does what it's supposed to do, just a tiny bit limited. It's an 8 out of 10. Value. And this is where we're expecting some great things. And surprise, surprise, no surprise at all, this is a great value. So the previous Hohem Steady Mobile Plus was $90. It was competitive, but since then, and this was what I was a little bit worried about when they first gave me this and there were no pricing available, a lot of things have gone down in price. So the Smooth Q2 is now down to $120. The Osmo Mobile 3 is 90 bucks. It's cheap. Osmo Mobile 3 kit with the little feet, 120 bucks. Imagine paying $30 for these. Please don't do that. And this, I was thinking it might come in at $100 because it's more advanced, more feature rich than their old offerings, $80. So this is the cheapest gimbal, and it most definitely does the job. And honestly, you don't have to feel bad about spending less on this. There are different particular things that you get with different gimbals. I showed you most of the features now. If it has the features that you want, go for it. Don't feel bad about it. And at the end of the day, you can take this, snap it back down, put it in your pocket. And to me, that's the most important part. The Q2 fits in your pocket pretty well, but it kind of dangles and wobbles around a bit. This one, it's great. So what does that give us overall? That gives us a 38 out of 50. I don't know, it's an arbitrary number made up by me, but it is a total score. If you have any questions about this, let me know down in the comments. If you want to buy one of these, I have a link in the description. It may or may not be an affiliate link because this is just coming out on the market soon, and really, at the time of this filming, you can only buy it directly from the Hohem store, and that's not an affiliate linking thing. If you have any thoughts on this, any questions, let me know. If there's anything else that you think that I should get to having a look at, got lots of stuff coming down the pipeline, and we'll talk about those things. So, until next time, go take some steady photos.